In the name of God the Merciful. Introduction. Praise be to Allen, the Lord Allen, and peace and blessings be upon his messengers and the machine and his companions, and liability charitably to the day of judgment. And yet, I type these days for the new war on Islam in each country of the Muslims in the world. And to be of speech and clear, I write about the new war on Islam in the first half of the month of Rajab of Muharram in 1435 of immigration, and I know that from a Muslim country have been exposed to many kinds of war on Islam for hundreds of years, and perhaps the biggest of these wars is a war on Islam taught to Muslims in the Middle Ages. But I think that the war on Islam these days present is the most destructive and damaging to the Muslims from the wars of the Tartars. This is because the Tatar war was aimed at the lives of Muslims and their money only went the war on Islam in our present, and it is targeting the lives of Muslims and their country and their faith and their Islam. And looking to the Muslim countries these days into Mu'tadis can be fully aware of that, so I can say that the kidneys and confirm that all the Muslim countries now living Black history to him. The uglier the conditions experienced by thousands of years and what our country has been living this Black history in these days, I have seen that most particularly something of my interest and my writing, and not because Egypt is the first Arab and Muslim world, is lie the heart of the body and the commander of the soldiers, the reason for the Black history of our country, the Egyptian, all the colors of black and ugly host cases, is that the military coup planned Jews in Israel and octroyed them to do a collection of the biggest traitors in the Egyptian army, and they have this coup Jewish military since 10.5 months and joined this group treacherous army all denominations traitors Egyptians in the police, judiciary and the media, all hazard and endowments, staff and managed such groups treacherous criminal that the volatility of Egypt upside down almost everything that was built by the Egyptian people in its elections, 10 noble of parliament and the Shura council to the constitution, and the government were not satisfied with all these crimes, but they added to it what is the worst of them, seizing an elected president and tens of thousands of Egyptians better with him, and killed thousands of the best young Muslim, and injured tens of thousands of so, and still killed and injured and arrested to the present day. That each of these groups made treacherous and all the Jews in Israel to fight Islam and Muslims loyal to Egypt. In order to achieve the Zionists in Israel Fudge's 3 goals were the Jews in Israel dreamed of for many years. These goals and 3 Jewish summarized as follows. The first objective, the military coup of this Jew in Egypt, is that the Egyptian army rushes and preoccupied with battles against the false and fake slogan Jew is to fight terrorism, and thus depletes the Egyptian army as much of the physical energies and consume larger quantities of various weapons. In this beguiling major Jewish ensures Jews and thugs in Israel that the Egyptian army could not after these battles with the Egyptian people to give to Israel criminal aggression or to stand in front of it in any war. Unexpected and unknown to the world that the Egyptian army was the army first and strongest in the Arab and Islamic countries. If this army collapsed and crash with all Arab and Islamic armies. The second objective of this Jewish military coup in Egypt is to eliminate the Muslim Brotherhood, especially in Egypt, because the Jews and folks in Israel and the world believe completely that the first enemy to them and the Muslims are the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt and in Gaza, Palestine. And the reason for this is money knows a lot of people that the Muslim Brotherhood are the ones to rescue a large number from the Egyptian army siege of Killer, and that was more than 60 years ago in the days of King Pharaoh was besieged Jews. Numbers. Many of the Egyptian army town of Fallujah did not drive them out of this blockade causes of the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood youth rushed then to enter Tel Aviv, but the English King Pharaoh and ordered his government to consider the return of the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt as soon as the Muslim Brotherhood and then brought to the detention centers. Third goal of the military coup in the Jewish Egypt is to reassure Israel and groups with treacherous army and people to completely cut the road in front of any Islamic group to think after that to reach a verdict in Egypt and race as the Muslim Brotherhood. So they succeeded in the elections honest, which they entered and ruled Egypt for the entire year. During the reign of President-elect legitimate Mohammed Morsi, may God protect him, and decoding captured Jews and folks in Israel and groups treacherous them from the Egyptian people seem to think that such horrific massacres that killed thousands of them Brotherhood and the Islamists them and injured thousands of Brotherhood and the Islamists. They were arrested by the thousands of Muslim Brotherhood, and the Islamists also believe that all of these brutal bloody massacres will prevent all of the thinking of a return to the rule of Egypt and race. But it is impossible, and they plot and plan and ally malicious as the largest massacres carried out by the traitors in the bloody military coup is known as the Massacre of the Massacre. Fourth Rabi'a. With God's help, I am the oldest poem following the first coup into a criminal and toxicity percentage. Poem to Pharaoh. Fourth Rabi'a. I ask God to make it the pure to face advice, and that the Quran makes it the right word when sold and unjust and mature fiqh only in God. And God is enough. And yes, the agent. In the name of God the Merciful. The poem percentage to Pharaoh. Fourth Rabi'a. Shouted lead Voker's field. Loud fire and burned the Quran. Mother may breastfeed her baby torn, and the child screaming hungry thirsty. Hot field you park. Today you had ruckus and smoke. Egypt, oh how I lived Rana. Pharaoh is a shame, grandchildren glamorous. Pharaoh betraying bloodshed us. I thanked him and Israel crosses. Good young Rabi'a, our supervision and control field. Good man Rabi'a, doctor witness and field. Good young Rabi'a, our heroes and witness field. Good man Rabi'a, our not witness and field. Good young Rabi'a, Ibar not witness and field. Pharaoh killed by the secret to kill them. Pharaoh's really criminal demon. Pharaoh and destroyed them guilty of only declared that our Constitution Quran, soldiers and war on our Islam, God and faith Mabiclatum. Prophet killed thousands and Renaissance. What the Jews recruited to tyranny. The soldiers are all his adab in each community, and whoever they are. Pharaoh's army and spoiled our soldiers. The enemy war unjustly brotherhood. The war on the brotherhood war. Jews they mice. Jews and Pharaoh agree. The biggest enemy of the Muslim Brotherhood. Pharaoh in Egypt fights them, and how much? Uncle ruined Egypt and the parties. Hamas and Gaza. Israel has to Tdk and exterminated the Massaw brothers. Barbie section that NATO, including the Pharaoh, and they are twins. Pharaoh detained women jailed. Modesty because it has an animal. Pharaoh's biggest shame of our nation HD. Egypt's history by yoke of tar. And some of his officers disbelieved because God and detained him jailer. Zine and his officers raped them girls. Killed and skinned them and show shore. Dogs and his officers did wrong, and how much blue scandals may crash, including the hulls. That burned the bodies of our martyrs. Baseball are eaten by fire. The mosques were burned and toward copies of the Quran. Drove over the feet of the Quran. And officer of churches Egypt cross. We made insulting us angry dog. He repeated insults. The heart is earnest. Ship collapse from sea pod and youths. People seemed cross-ruled in our state. Who overshadowed uptake and crosses. Pharaoh bastard with infidels supine. Vina and Puffy claimed Ekton. Pharaoh's army and the demon torn. How pleased an army collapses. Obgk Badua rushed to his barracks. All of them fought against the tyranny of Judea. Palestina not taken them out. The right of an inch by losing. Millions of them were expelled by Muslims. They are all Jews to the land homelands. Those settlements by Hudo Buita have religion and faith. For the Jews by the kingdom of dreams, where the Euphrates and the Nile decorated, and prisons Vidiana between our world. Women topped by us males. Far and dug our mosque was destroyed by the and murder of Muslims by the fire. Jews make him unjustly Nisham, and the rest of their temple which Solomon, Egypt and the army of Israel is killing us. And that the Kaf are explicit proof. Check them and criminals to rule the court. Our president and Hollisan title. Thieves left the killers of our people. An imprisonment of innocent kilometers hand. Pharaoh made his praises media. Media and mislead the people and Juan. Pharaoh divided into groups and torn. And it was like Pharaoh and Haman. Judges, most imta aah. Pharaoh darksome and imta blind. Jews sued his death in Minya. Prices by the Pharaoh and demon. the penalty of our state to spend Ogermo killing, including spoiled and justice balance, and hypotheses on the sons of our nation that defeated the coup and all of the betrayed. Here are examples of no to Pharaoh. They are like dogs, and this description Quran, Sheikh and Mufti said about our supervision. Understanding the Qurayshites killed Kurban. Where is the evidence that it is permissible to kill them? Fatwa far all fading. FC good enough Mufti Abdul Fancy. His recompense murder and comment crosses. The Qurayshites were arrested us. Our president and how the people betrayed. The Qurayshites police cursed. Thousands were injured and all tyranny. The Qurayshites are a criminal gang, losing the entire top of a coup. Mufti priest on his colleagues. They swine herds of the Pharaoh, and all the criminality of their betrayal. Lied and said origin brotherhood. Pharaoh and his soldiers lied blood. All same to them in a lie and falsehood. Pharaoh when God became his slave. Sabrat Kafar his name and the Quran. Voters and his partners never. In the killing of thousands, a demon. Voters and his partners never. In which thousands of animal wound. Voters and his partners never. Imprisonment of thousands in a snake. Spit the Pharaoh of its constitution Lantana. Its constitution and the balance is. It's all injustice and evil. Killed and wounded and imprisoned the hilarious constitution of the pastors of churches. Loud besell Banhal and insulted the Quran. Black's constitution prospects of injustice. In each house of Sharif from the sorrows. Constitution really wonderful bloodbath. Chip for almost a fourth of us and Dan. Pharaoh fourth cocky strength. Barbie section of the undefeated and losing. Pharaoh's fourth fight of his nation. Retribution near him and his agents. Pharaoh fourth thousands of widows, as well as the orphans kingdom fire him. Pharaoh forth countless crimes. God cursed and Jane in Pharaoh forth Israel origin. It is the heart of the Jewish body. Pharaoh's forth backed Israel. Aircraft and its source.